You're listening to Like Flint Radio, part of the Revelations Radio Network. Well, welcome to another episode of Like Flint Radio. I'm your host, GK, and you can find us on the web at www.likeflintradio.com.
This is Vlad. I can't come to the phone right now. I am busy exterminating the roaches.
On the line with me is my co-host and our interviewee for this episode, Cliff Garner. And
Hey.
Today, how you going, Cliff?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. Thanks for coming on board. Now, today we're going to be talking about the Vlad Dracula or Dracula, and I know you've done some intensive research on the topic, and I've been looking forward to doing this one for a while. But before we get started, I want to point out that the last time we spoke, you were in Constantinople, or better known as Istanbul, but you're now back in the good old USA. So can you share with our audience a little bit about that, what's going on and what you're up to?
Well, it's kind of complex. I've been wanting to return to the U.S. and pursue my PhD for a while now, and I figured it was a pretty good time to do that with the political situation in Turkey being what it is. And Erdogan is making a move towards consolidating ultimate power right now, and it doesn't look like he's changing that at all. My mother was starting to get worried. I'll be real blunt. She was finding out that I had riots in my neighborhood, and the government was shooting people. They were shooting them. Oh, there was one boy that was shot with a tear gas canister in the head. And that's the thing that they've been doing over there. Among other things, he's been making sure that the police shoot the tear gas canisters straight into the crowd.
Okay.
And there's been a lot of other violations of what I would call human rights, violations of all kinds. And I'm quite appalled at it. And one thing for sure, I'm going to renew my membership with Amnesty International, and I'll start doing some rioting soon with some of this. I'm really pretty angry about what's been going on there, and also I've been also very blunt about how the reason why we have the situation we do in the Middle East is because of what Erdogan has been doing.
Right. So you think that's directly related?
Oh, I know it is.
Right.
I know it's directly related.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's sins of omission, and sometimes it's sins of commission. But he is behind a lot of what's been going on there. And a group like ISIS or ISIL or IS, whatever you want to call them, that group is one of the main groups that's been receiving the benefit of his policy in Syria, and that has never been a secret. And whether they're biting the hand that feeds or if they're a manipulation, I'm kind of having a hard time deciding. Mm-hmm. I think it's a little both.
Listen, on to happier things, Cliff. How's things going on back in America? How are you enjoying it? What have you been doing?
Actually, when I'm not worried about work, it's been actually pretty good. I've been hanging out with my old buddy Mario quite a bit, and I'm trying to get life back to normal. I mean, I've been looking really hard for work, and I think something is probably going to open up in the next few days here.
Excellent. No, listen, I was also going to say that time between when you left, preparing to leave Istanbul and coming home, you actually went to Romania, and we talked about that on I think it was on the Flint Flake show.
Yes, we did.
And we came up with the idea between us, to be honest with you, I can't remember whether it was you or me, but we came up with this idea of let's talk about Vlad.
Actually, I think we were talking about Dracula before I decided to go.
Is that right? Okay, all right.
Yeah, no, it truly is.
It's funny how things work.
Yeah, it really is. And it's just, we were just talking about one thing, and then things came up.
Yeah.
Well, I was originally going to go to in Revelations, the churches there. Satan's Satan's seat.
Pergamon.
Pergamon. Yeah. I was going to head down there.
Right.
And Bergama is a city. I mean, they've got all this right in the middle of the city.
Yeah.
And they've been restoring parts of it, and people's understanding of that whole complex there is, I think, a bit skewed. And as a matter of fact, Satan's seat may not be. It is not necessarily Zeus's altar.
Right.
There was no temple to Zeus there.
Right.
And but there were other things going on there too, and that might be more accurate. I was wanting to head there to see what they've been doing, because they've been restoring a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, some of it they've got like the old basilica. They've actually got it back indoors. That has these caryatids that are obviously Egyptian style, which is really interesting. I think a good analysis might be in order, because what they're learning with the archaeology is that it was far more complex a place than just that.
Well, when you look at that Pergamon altar that's now in Berlin, my son went there and looked at that not long after he'd been with you.
Your son has got some places I'd like to go.
Yeah, well, it was a good place to start with you in Turkey, because you gave him a good background there. But then
he's got some really amazing places.
He did, but he also went some places.
Hastings of all places.
What was that?
He was working in Hastings of all places.
Of all places, yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
Yeah. But he also went to a couple of places you've been, like Rosalind Chapel and things like that. But he did go to the Pergamon altar in Berlin. And I've looked into that myself, and look, do they think it is it ascribed to Zeus?
Yeah, the altar is Zeus's, but that's the only thing that's to Zeus that's in the whole city.
Mm.
There were no temples to Zeus. There were temples to Athena. One of the altars to one of the, not just altar, but temple also to one of the emperors that they were actually referring to.
After that, but instead of that, you actually went to Bucharest, didn't you?
Yeah, I went to Bucharest. I took a bus there. Yeah. That was kind of a mistake. It was rather interesting. It was a hot bus ride, a really hot bus ride. They didn't have air conditioning on the bus, so I'm on a bus that's just filled with sweating Romanian people, and one guy sitting next to me. Well, there was one Turkish guy sitting next to me, and there was a Syrian, a scholar actually, who was a teacher up there, and he had been teaching there longer than the situation. The situation in Syria has been like that, but he's been living in Bucharest for quite a while now. Yeah. And so I'm on a bus with all these very sweaty Romanian folks, and you wouldn't believe the music they listen to. Mm. I mean, it's kind of like Lawrence Welk with slam dancing. It's really pretty cool.
Oh boy.
That's about right. I mean, that's what this is. They got the accordion, they're smiling, and they're just banging into each other, dancing like drunks. It's really funny.
So, does that journey take you through Bulgaria?
Yes, it does, and that was pretty rough. And as a matter of fact, it became a little terrifying going through the mountains. Mm-hmm. There was one really bad situation, because it's a long way down, man.
Right. Yeah.
Oh yeah. We were around was it Stara Zagora, I think, It was either right before or right after it, and it was in the mountains there, and it's just nothing. If you go off the road, you're right in the trees, man. And people coming back the other way, they were going at a pretty good pace, and this guy lost control of his car and was coming toward us and missed us and hit the railing.
Ooh.
I mean, he went past us, and as he went past us, he missed us and hit the railing, and our bus driver had to maneuver. And then there was another semi-truck coming the other way that just barely missed us coming down.
Wow.
Coming right after, because he's maneuvering around that guy, and then he almost lost half the bus to the semi coming. And it was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
The Lord was definitely looking out for us there.
It had to be.
Oh man, but that's as bad as I've seen as something like through the mountains, man. We got through the mountains and stuff with no further incident. But I'll tell you, there were about 5 people that almost had heart attacks on that bus.
I reckon. Yeah, that sounds very, very hairy. But you did make it to the. You did make it to the home of our topic for today. So,
well, we didn't make it to his home.
No. But to the land.
We did make it to the land.
Yeah.
And I did get to Bucharest, and my friend Juan has been teaching there for quite a while now. I wanted to talk to him about possible future situations. I may go there to go to school and to teach sometime in the future. It's one of the things I would strongly consider. I've really kind of felt a desire to go there for a long time. There's a lot of mysteries with Romania, and one of them is the language itself. It's a Romance language like French or Italian or Spanish.
Now, why did they get that name Romance? What does that come from?
Well, it just means Roman,
right?
An A and CE, right? You know, the ending.
Yep.
So it's a descriptive ending. So it means of the Romans.
Okay.
And that's the thing. The Romance languages have a certain romance, right?
Yeah. That's actually why I asked the question. Yeah.
Well, people think that French and Italian in particular are particularly sexy.
That's right.
And they can be very beautiful. They are beautiful languages. And although French can be really harsh. And Italian can be scary.
That's right. That's right.
It's like, man, they're really mad. Oh yeah. I've heard some amazing things in Italian. It's like, holy cow! I'm glad they didn't hurt each other there. And it's a fun language. It really is. I'm glad I did learn it for Italian, and but Romanian is a related language. It has more of a Slavic influence. As a matter of fact, their word for yes is da.
Da.
Just like Russian.
Yeah. Da.
Yeah, I do love the language. I love the way it sounds. It can sound like French and it can sound like Italian at different times, depending on what they're talking about. And I was studying it, and there's a lot of mysteries in the language.
Right. Well, we're back, Cliff. We're back after a couple of days. Just to let our audience know, we recorded for about 2.5 hours, and we lost all that data through a technical hitch on my laptop, we might say, but we're back again. This is 2 days later. We're picking up the discussion here, and where we need to kick off, Cliff, if you're right to, is can you give us the background to our hero's name, Vlad? What's the meaning and background to his name?
What, Vlad? Vlad, I think is like William. As far as Slavic names go, but it entered into the Romanian language, which has a lot of Slavic in it. Now the Dracula is 3 parts, and he got the title Dracula from his father, and Drac is dragon, and Ul is the article "the" in Romanian. And one of the things about Romanian is that they use the article at the end of the word, and which is really pretty unusual. It's usually at the beginning. So his father's name was Dracul, and so Dracul is the dragon.
Right.
And then the A that's appended to the end with the ula, Dracula, is actually the diminutive, just like it's like somebody who's named Juan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Father Juan is the big Juan, and little Juan is Juanito.
Right, and so Dracula is Little Drac.
That's right. That's exactly it. And it's no different. It really isn't. It's just that with Dracul, that is the, and it's signifying he is the one. And then Dracula is the little one. He's Drac Junior.
Right.
So that's really what it all means.
And so he's the little dragon, Cliff, the little dragon.
Yeah, exactly. He's the little dragon. And now, since his father was already known by the term, it was kind of natural that he would get the little, regardless of whether he was greater or less. Now, the thing was about it was that his father was given the title in February 8th, 1431, and he was inducted into the Order of the Dragon. The order was a medieval crusading order, and its main objectives were to promote the House of Luxembourg and to preserve the king, the Holy Roman Emperor, and at the time it was Sigismund of the House of Luxembourg. The second thing that they were supposed to do was to promote Catholicism. And, you go back to the date, 1431. Well, prior to any assistance to the Byzantine Empire, one of the sticking points for the Pope has always been the unification of the two churches. And that is where this really comes in. The union of the Catholic and Orthodox churches was one of the goals that was in mind. Actually, it happened de facto in Byzantium with the fall of the empire and with the fall of the city of Constantinople.
Right.
And so this was part of that process that the members of the order were supposed to promote the Catholic expansion into the Orthodox areas, and that's why you have Catholic Poland, huge Catholic areas in the Ukraine. You have a large Catholic minority in Romania. That's why the Czech areas, well, they were just dominated by the Catholics. Same with the Slovakian area. It was pretty dominated there, although it's still a kind of a mixture. And you had the Moravian Brethren as well. A lot of the early reformers were actually Slavic. Really, all through Yugoslavia, you had the Croats. So your religious boundaries were supposed to be eradicated, but it didn't turn out that way. As far as it went with Vlad Dracula and Vlad Dracula, both, neither one of them was too eager to upset the apple cart, as it were, with the average person. The average person of the Wallachians, the Romanian people themselves.
I've got a question. Was Dracula's father, who we know as Vlad II, was it also part of that order's role to stem the tide of Islam? Was that part of it as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They were a crusading order, and there were two there were two groups they were crusading against. One was any infidel, which Islam was the most dangerous.
Right.
And then there were heretics such as the Moravian brothers, and actually in their time it wasn't Moravia, it was Bohemia.
Yes.
And that was the Hussites. The Hussites were the big ones. See, this is all before Luther. So your big heretics at that time, the Cathars were dead by then, and the Cathars, or actually the Bogomils of Bosnia, had converted Islam. It's kind of interesting when you study Islam that there is a certain amount of Islamic doctrine that holds in common with different heretical Christian sects.
Do you have an example?
Yeah, a good example is the Muslim belief on the crucifixion. They do not believe that Jesus was crucified.
That's right.
They believe that someone was crucified in his place, or that there was some kind of a show that they were allowed to see and believe, but in fact no one was killed or whatever. That comes right from certain Gnostic beliefs. So, there's a remarkable consonance between heretical Christianity and Islam. As a matter of fact, the Hebrew roots are just the Shahada away, especially once they give up the Trinity. So that should be a warning to a lot of people. Actually, the similarity between certain heretical Christian sects and Islam is very striking.
We have this story, Cliff, of we have Papa Drac, considered a prince, were they? The Prince of Wallachia?
Yeah. Wallachia is, okay, the areas of Romania today, basically you have Wallachia, and that is the Danubian area. Mm-hmm. There's Oltenia, which I think is the Black Sea area. And then you have Transylvania, which is the largest part of the area in between. And that's up in the Carpathian Mountains there. And then you have Moldavia, which is an independent country between Romania and the Ukraine. And Moldavia is a kindred country. I mean, they speak the same language. They have pretty much the same customs. They're a little more Russified, I suppose would be a good way to say it.
Right.
There's an extra layer of Slavic influence on them, for one thing. But the Wallachians live all through that area of Romania and in parts of Poland and Ukraine, and there's some that you can find in Hungary and the Slovak Republic and here and there in Yugoslavia and stuff. So
Vlad too, he had a number of sons, and there's an interesting story how two of them actually ended up becoming hostages of of Muslims. Can you give us the background to that?
Well, yeah, his oldest son was a Mircea, and he was a legitimate heir. Well, you know, it's really interesting how Wallachia is really kind of a mystery country. These Roman-speaking people disappeared after Trajan. And you know, and how did they survive there? Did they come out of the Balkans going north, getting away from all the conquerors, or were they just the people that stayed behind and, you know, whatever? Or did they just, was there like a meltdown with all the different peoples that passed through, and all the losers ended up just kind of melding their language together? I mean, what happened here, you know? But what happened that we can determine is that there was a flattening of the differences between the high and low. So you really only had two classes. You had the boyars, who were something of a nobility. I mean, a real simple nobility, And then you had the peasants, right? I mean, they're people that right on the land. Even the poor, I mean, right there, boom, boom, two classes. And that really prepared them in some ways to be ready for the Renaissance, although becoming dominated in the way that they had been by the Turks really kind of spoiled it. But they did have some natural tendencies right there, because their army, instead of being these nobles, and all this armor, bidding homage to a higher noble, and all this kind of thing. What you had instead was a conscription, of high and low, and the high, had to maybe provide a horse, and they were the cavalry, and the foot soldiers, they gave them whatever weapons they could. But they were there at the time of the gun being the new weapon. If they had survived through this, they would have probably been on the very cutting edge of military tactics for years to come. Because they had this advantage of this peasant army. Byzantium still exists as an entity.
Right.
You're still having crusades, but you have the Renaissance in full bloom. It's going out from Italy and going to other places. So you have the condottiere, like John Hunyadi, who carves out a little fiefdom out of Transylvania.
And I just for the sake of the recording, can I crack my Hyundai joke, because when we recorded a couple of days ago.
That's okay.
When we recorded a couple of days ago, you remember I said every time I read that guy's name, it reminded of Hyundai or Hyundai.
Yeah.
I had to get that on the recording.
It just looks like it. So this is gay. That's all it's missing. It's Hunyadi. As a matter of fact, the E's in the wrong place, just kind of moving around.
So he went to war in a Elantra chariot.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, sorry, man. Karen, we're in Transylvania.
To pass up.
We're in Transylvania with Hyundai.
Yeah, it was the Minister Hyundai, and he's one of the great heroes of not only the Romanians but also the Hungarians. Same with the Matthias Corvinus. He preserved the independence of the Romanians for another generation. There's some really remarkable people in this time, and they all have these conflicting agendas. It's really interesting to see how they work. And really, that's one of the things you have to look at with Papa Vlad. He kind of sets the stage because you had the first battle of the Field of Blackbirds, the Kosovo Polje, and that was in 1389.
And is that what Kosovo means, Cliff?
Kosovo's blackbird, Polje is field.
Right. Okay. Cool. Okay.
So yeah, that's why they have a black bird as their emblem. I think it's a two-headed one. But yeah, the Kosovo Polje. There were two huge encounters there. See, that's one of the reasons why the Serbs didn't want that pulled away. But at the same time, certain other, actually Islamist groups were insisting that it must.
That's
be,
right.
Because they wanted to put the hurts to the Serbians.
So Papa Drac is a somewhat of a, can I say, a national hero, or?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. He and the son both are, and they both uphold Christianity in the face of Islam. Mm-hmm. They're both crusaders in that respect.
Yeah.
The others who are in the order of the dragon, I think that primarily when the identity of the emperor changes and it becomes the Habsburgs, that they're far more concerned about the heretics inside the Holy Roman Empire than they are about anything to do with the Turks. That will change. That will change, especially when they're on the steppes of Vienna, which is their territory. They tried a little too hard to kill off the English and the northern Germans, and they get a little bit too worried about it, and they have that scorched earth policy that just wastes everything during the 1600s. And then as soon as that's finished, about 1617, I think it was when Suleiman the Magnificent knocks on the door of Vienna and says, "Let me in."
Hey, keeping in mind that we've just mentioned Suleiman the Magnificent, I love some of these guys' names. Can you outline the story of Dracula and Radul the Handsome? What happened to those?
You know, I never got around to what happened there because we got caught up talking about other things. Well, okay. What the deal is? Well, Drac had his legitimate son, Mircea. Okay,
oh, that's
Mircea,
right. Yes.
Very common Romanian name, and Mircea was his legitimate son. Okay, so he was kind of first in line. He's the oldest, and the younger two he had with him when he went to talk to the Sultan, meet up with the Sultan and some of his people. I think it was in Edirne, Adrianople, and one of the things that Dracula was doing was Dracul, the father, was he was playing a double game. He had the Turks right on his border because Bulgaria was swallowed up swiftly after the Field of the Blackbirds, the battle there. And so the border was right there at the Danube, and he was looking right across into Turkish territory. So he had to deal with them before he could really do what he was promising the European powers that he could do. So he and John Hunyadi, who he really didn't like Hunyadi all that much, but the Hunyadi being there was a reality. You know, he held on to the area of Transylvania, which kept also although Dracul had the rights over the territory of the Siebenbergen, and those were the German cities of Transylvania. But he had to work with Hunyadi in order to be able to fully exercise his rights as a sovereign. So their relationship was very important, and one of the things that he kept doing was he kept using Mircea as his representative in battle while he sat on the sidelines and tried to put on the best face for the Turkish Sultan. So his son was doing all the dirty work. And he even wrote to some of the German cities saying that, look, my two younger sons have been butchered because I've been trying to maintain this policy with the Holy Roman Emperor. You know, you need to listen to me and you need to obey me. Because the German cities, their real loyalties lay with the Holy Roman Emperor, not with him. So that you had this ethnic divide that was often very significant to the politics there. And so he thought for sure that those boys would be killed because they were handed over. And
why were they handed over, Cliff?
Why? Because he was maintaining this double game. He was putting on the best front he could while he was sending Mircea out to do the dirty work. There was a battle at Varna, and it was just a catastrophe for the Christians, and Mircea was part of it. In fact, Mircea gave advice. He was one of the first to use cannonade effectively, and he also learned a lot from John Hunyadi as well. But Hunyadi was convinced by the other forces in the European coalition to go for the Battle of Varna. They overextended themselves. They almost penetrated into what is now Turkey. They were very close to doing that, and they didn't quite, but but they had too long of a supply line. They ran out of supplies. They got cut off. The Polish king fell in Turkish hands. They had to ransom him back. I mean, just all kinds of terrible things happened. There were thousands that got killed, you know.
Yes.
So
Yes.
So it was catastrophe.
So now we have baby Drac and his brother are in the hands of the Sultan as hostages. Is that right?
That's right, because the father went down to because he was called to the carpet by the Sultan, and he really didn't have any choice.
Right.
And they told him to bring him, and they threw him in prison for a year.
Okay.
And they also threw the boys into prison also, and then they shipped them around a little bit. Dracula got out in I think it was 1448, and Radu was kept until kept right until things deteriorated to where Mehmet, Fatih Sultan Mehmet, invaded Romania in 1462.
And what was now there was a relationship between Radu the Handsome and Radul the Handsome and the Sultan. What's the politest way we could cover that, Cliff?
It was sexual.
Okay, all right.
And the dominant partner was Fatih.
Okay.
Fatih Sultan Mehmet. And
because Radul he converted to Islam, didn't he? Whereas
yes,
Dracula didn't.
It was probably part of that. And see, it's probably more complex than that too. With Dracula, the older brother, he had endured some pretty harsh treatment, and he was tough. Radu was not only younger, but he was also more of a pleasure seeker. He learned to really like the ways of the Seraglio. You know, I mean, that's where he was at most of the time. Whereas Dracula was, he was actually made it an officer by Murad II, and he was probably disciplined a lot harder. You know, they'd slap him around, and kind of his dad messed up, and he just held it in, and he was a very tough person.
And they were both trained in the Quran and the language too, weren't they, Cliff?
Yes, they both were, and in fact, that was part of the policy of the Ottomans was to promote at least knowledge of Islam among the Christians that they would eventually rule.
So part of this policy, we learn about the Janissaries. I find them fascinating. And can you tell us a bit about what the Janissaries were, how they were recruited?
Yeah. Now that's probably one of the things that the modern Turks really don't like talking about.
Okay.
Because it was one of the most presented parts of the policy, and what the Janissaries were they were a very highly elite group of soldiers, really, and they were recruited from Christian families. They would take the best, the brightest, and the biggest, and they would steal them from their parents and ship them to the imams, and they would whip them into these fanatical Muslim killers, basically. They were schooled in Sufism, actually, Bektashi order, we've talked about it before. We've never gotten around to top that Svi, but we've been dancing around the outskirts there.
We lost that in the data that we lost. So can you tell us a bit about Sufism?
Sufism, actually, it's a mystical form of Islam. I find it very interesting. When I was younger, I was very attracted to it. It has less to do with normative Islam than it does with mystical cults of various types of stripe. Basically, one could know God through meditation. You know, I mean, that's one of the key ideas there. And that's where you get into your whirling dervishes, and we get the impression that the dervish is a violent dance, but it's not. It's very serene.
Right.
It's very beautiful to watch because they wear a full caftan that goes down to the ground like a robe, and as they dance, it comes up, and they look like a top spinning. And it's actually quite beautiful to watch them just whirl, and they just go in circles. They don't get dizzy, which like I say, when I was younger, I was very attracted to that whole thing, the ideas and the beliefs and stuff. But the Bektashis were a little different. I have to say that I really don't know a lot of the particulars of what they taught.
Right. Okay. So these are this is the order that the Janissaries were inducted into.
Yeah. Actually, they would sit down and talk to Shabtai Tzvi, and they were part of what convinced him to convert to Islam post being killed, and so thus it created a new concept of Kabbalistic thinking, in which gathering up the kelitpoth, the scattered bits of light hidden in places of darkness. So this concept is a very vibrant one within at least certain schools of Kabbalistic thinking.
Can you tell us how the Janissaries were used in battle, and also, we discussed it last time, how once, if you're a Christian family and your son was taken as a Janissary, you really didn't want him to come back home, and why?
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is that they were taken away to be programmed, brainwashed into being fanatical Muslims, and jihad was the word on all their lips. They were taught to be. I wouldn't say fanatical. I would use the word rabid as an accurate description of them. Rabid. So if they came back to the house, they would be probably insisting on family converting or dying, and that would be a very catastrophic thing for the family to have happen. And so they were not eager for their sons to come back if they were taken. It was really very sad. I mean,
it is very.
The families were not left in a very good position, that's for sure. Especially since they were the biggest and the brightest and the smartest and all that. What they did with the Janissaries, though, they were fanatical troops. So you had the elements of the berserker that they fought for their belief. I mean, it was just like tooth and nail. I mean, that every fiber of their being was dedicated towards that goal. One of the things the Nazis did was that they. When they were forming the SS, and Himmler really had a lot of this in mind, there were a few examples that they could point to that they would see this battle lust, this bloodlust that would come from a certain amount of I don't know if I want to say faith, because that's really not the case, but a certain amount of fanaticism. And they wanted to tap into that. And then the most obvious examples for them were the Teutonic Knights and also the assassins of the Middle East, but the Janissaries. And they were very interested in learning about the techniques that were used to create these. And I would say a super soldier.
Right.
That is programmed as a killing machine, and they were looking at how that was done. That was how they tried to program their own. With the Janissaries, the Janissaries were taught in what little I do know is this, that they were put in places that they call lodges. Lodges were. A lodge system was the system that was used for the Sufis all through, really all over the world. Sufis didn't do all their things publicly in front of people. They would teach them the doctrines of the order, And they would also combine it with a certain amount of this mystical training. And when you look at what the SS was doing, that is exactly what they did. They would get them apart from other people, and they would train them in the beliefs, and they would train them in other ways, and prepare them to become a very elite type of soldier. So that said, I'm not going to say that the Janissaries were Nazis. There's no way that would.
No. I know what you're saying. Yeah, no.
That would be absurd. But the fact is that the Nazis did take a page from their book, and they used it to program their soldiers.
Hey, listen. While Baby Drac is a hostage, his father is killed. Can you give us the background to that, and then how he?
He fell afoul of John Hunyadi, and Hunyadi had his own set of priorities, and one of the things he did, because Papa Drac was not exactly cooperative in his book, he started backing a fellow named Vladislav the second, and he was one of the main scions of another branch of the royal family of Wallachia called the Doneshti. And the Doneshti were a different branch. The Draculeshti and the Doneshti, they were rivals, and so he backed this fellow here, and he got some support from the Transylvanians, and he defeated Prince Mircea and took him captive and buried him alive. And then he went after the father, and he escaped that battle. But they caught him later, and they murdered him, probably after torturing him. Before he died, according to legend, there seems to be something to the legend, that he knew that he was going to die, and that he gave his assistant Kazan. He gave his chancellor Kazan the Toledo blade that was given to him by Emperor Sigismund, and the gold collar with the dragon insignia. And so those two things were what he was given to become the Prince of Wallachia and to be a member of the Order of the Dragon.
So Papa Drac sent his chancellor to give these to his son Little Dracula.
That's right. That's what he did, because originally Mircea was to become the next Dracula. but since he was already murdered, and Vlad was now next in line, it was given to him.
So how does he escape the Muslims then? How does Dracula escape?
Well, it suddenly became necessary to recognize that Dracula was a serious player in the game now. So he had already been a officer for Murad II, and Murad had hoped that enough of the brainwashing, basically, of Dracula would hold.
Right.
He had a lot of regard for him, and see, he's like their ace in the hole. They were thinking, right? They've got their hands on the kids. They've got them. They've been teaching them their ways. They're hoping that they see that the Ottoman Turks are more civilized in the West, which could be made a case in some places. Actually, if you look at what Luther said that he would rather be under the Grand Turk than under the Pope. And there were reasons he said that. He said that partly to shame the Pope, but he also said it because, as far as it went, the Grand Turk, the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, was largely more tolerant, okay, of people regardless of their belief. Was that true? Yes, it was. Although there were periodic persecutions of Christians, there were lots of massacres even now. I mean, especially now, the massacres, no problem. You know, there was a crime done to a Turk, they'd go in, they just start slaughtering. They stole their children, but at the same time, there was a freedom that was given to the people there that was not given to the people of Europe.
Right.
And that was the point that Luther was making. And largely, the Ottomans were pretty good. However, over time, after they kind of peaked, and the influx of, or actually the meeting of cultures that was often very productive, and the economics that brought them to a certain head, they were for a time the most advanced culture on the planet. That would have been right around the time of Suleiman the Magnificent. I mean, he really had a culture that was well worth noting. I mean,
hence the title of that program, what they call it, the Glorious Century.
Muda Shem Uziel, the Glorious Centuries. It was a glorious time.
Yeah.
And they turned the Black Sea into a Muslim Sea, and they went up and they took the Golden Horde under their wing, and they fought the wars against Russia. I mean, that's where when the 1700s. But they were starting to kind of decline by then, and they were no longer using Christians as soldiers. They were putting them off to the side, and paying the
jizya.
Yeah, jizya. Yeah, the jizya became far more important than a personal merit. You know, so there was. They started separating people into. They called it milit, the different peoples, different ethnicities.
Now that we've brought that up, Cliff, can you tell us about the jizya, please?
The jizya, yeah, that's a tax that is put on Christians and Jews and other people of the book, like Zoroastrians, by Muslims when they conquer their territory. So it's a way of further subjugating a conquered people.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because often it was collected publicly in the square so that everyone knew who was who, and occasionally you'd get a slap along with it, wouldn't you?
Sure. They weren't making it a pleasant experience for Christians and Jews. And it was also an incentive to try to get people to convert. It really wasn't that high of a tax, although, well, I mean, if you think of a tithe being high, it was I don't remember, something like 4% or something. It was definitely not a very nice thing to do. And they would spit on your face if they wanted. It's a humiliation. It is a penalty, and it's not something that the subject peoples found very pleasant.
So getting back to Dracula, so he's sent back to Wallachia.
Allowed to go back.
Allowed to or sent back? Because I know he
let him. See, the thing is that the person who was put in place now is an ally of John Hunyadi.
Right.
And this person isn't playing ball with them. So the Turks aren't very happy about that. They liked Papa Vlad a lot better, even though he wasn't the best. He was better than this guy. So they encouraged him, and they said, well, you know, you are the prince. Good luck.
Go get your throne. Get your throne back.
Going back, and so when he went back up, he goes back and he makes friends with John Hunyadi. That's what he does, and he learns a lot from Hunyadi. I mean, this is 1448. You know, this is. The Byzantium has not fallen yet. He hasn't had the opportunity yet to do anything. But he's come out, and now he goes and he decides that he's going to learn from the best. And Hunyadi sets him up. He gives him a command over the frontier, right on the border of his Wallachia. So he's in Transylvania now, and he's getting ready for the opportunity to take power. He doesn't get his chance for a while. The second battle of Kosovo is the chance that he's waiting for, though, and it isn't too far off from there. And what he does is that when Vladislav is gone, he's not occupying Wallachia. He's in the field somewhere in Serbia.
Right.
And what Dracula does is that he gets some backing from the Turks, and he goes in and takes over Wallachia while he's gone. So Vladislav has to find his way back into the country to take it over. And I find that very funny, actually.
Yeah.
He does. I mean, it doesn't take very long. It only takes Dracula has ruled for only about 2 months, but he has made some contacts. Although his relationship with Hunyadi isn't exactly on solid ground, because he wasn't there very long, and already he'd already tried to take out his ally and mess with his plans. So, and not only that, he isn't the biggest fan of Hunyadi right off the bat, because Hunyadi's behind the scenes pushing Vladislav in the first place to kill his father. So Mr. Dracula made some pretty heavy compromises in his vow to get revenge for his father and brother. Although he's been realistic, Hunyadi's a really important guy in his time, and he really does sit on a really important area. So after Vladislav boots out Dracula in his first reign of 2 months, Dracula goes to Moldavia, and he marries sister of Bogdan II, and he's the ruling prince of Moldavia. And he comes into contact with his cousin / nephew, Stephen the Great, who will be the greatest ruler of Moldavia soon. And that's in Suceava, which is the capital of Moldavia back then. So from December 1449 to October 1451, he is there. And he and Stephen are becoming rather thick. They're close. They're not just kinsmen, but they're close to each other. And unfortunately, a fellow named Petru Aaron, he's Bogdan II's brother, murders Bogdan and takes over. So Dracula and Stephen, they run off from Moldavia, and they go through the Borgo Pass, and that is a key area in the novel. That's the pass through the Carpathian Mountains where Castle Dracula is.
So this is Bram Stoker's Dracula you're referring to?
Yes, indeed. And the thing is that Stoker did pretty good research, and he actually found out about the places, learned a lot about the lay of the land. And that Borgo Pass is a key. It is.
Yes.
It figures a couple times in talking about Vlad and his adventures. And he and Stephen basically were not seen when they were running around up there in Transylvania. Hunyadi had no idea that it was right there. And then word comes out that they were in Brasov, and Hunyadi tries to assassinate Dracula, and it fails. He escapes again and just despairs. They don't see him again until the fall of 1452. But then Hunyadi fell out with Vladislav over some territories. That Hunyadi seized some areas, and Vladislav never forgave him. He started making deals with the Sultan and letting the Sultan take punitive expeditions into Transylvania. And that would cause the final falling out between the two. And so Vlad and Hunyadi became friends. Well, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right?
Yes.
So here we go.
Yes.
And the two of them make a lifelong, what turns out to be a lifelong deal between the two, and one that is also carried on by Hunyadi's descendants, well, his children. It goes to the next generation, although it's deeper for Vlad than it is for them, and it's because, well, we'll see. But at any rate, he sets up Vlad with a command over the frontiers of Transylvania, Wallachia, and he also uses Vlad as a person that he consults for whether or not he would be able to help in the battle between Fatih Sultan Mehmet II and the Byzantine Empire. The fall of Constantinople would come, I think the date's May 29th, 1453, and Constantine the 11th had approached Hunyadi about maybe assisting him, and Dracula was his advisor at that. Of course, we see the answer was no. But the thing that happens next, it's of kind of great importance, is another battle, and it would be the protection of Belgrade. And one of the things that about Mr. Hunyadi is that he has been the commander-in-chief of the Christian forces in the Balkans for some time now, and for better or worse. And there was another attack that came from the Turks. Mehmet is the second, is now the king. That's right, and he's a lot more aggressive than Murad. Murad was more of a political manipulator, and but he wasn't afraid for a fight. But he was more willing to negotiate. Whereas Fatih Mehmet II he's a genius. He's also a bit of a psychopath, and he's definitely considered one of the most violent of the conquerors of the Ottoman Empire. But he is a violent psychopath, and he is a person who is unpredictable, and he's not consistent in his behavior. He's very unpredictable, and that's part of why he was such a good commander. But he was very dangerous to deal with in any given time.
As we get to hear about Dracula later, there's quite a few psychopaths running around the Transylvanian woods, you know.
Yeah, there's see, well, the thing is, the two of them were well acquainted, even before, the Dracula comes to the crown and Fatih comes to the crown. They already knew each other, and they probably didn't like each other very much. Dracula is not, he's indomitable, and Fatih is arrogant enough to where Dracula would never bow to him. So you could tell that there was a big problem there, and it was probably exacerbated by the relationship that Fatih had with his brother, and that was probably partially a humiliation to Vlad.
Radul the Handsome.
Yeah, Radu. That he would be
Radul the Handsome. It's a brilliant name. It's a brilliant.
Well, yeah, it really is. It's kind of It's kind of entertaining, and it really does describe him. I guess he had very striking eyes, and he was a very good-looking man. And sexual component was part of their relationship. It's really actually fairly well documented by the different historians of the time, and that there's a very well-known historian who talks about how Radu tried to preserve his honor in spite of the fact that Fatima almost raped him. And I'm trying to find the guy's name. He was one of the greater historians at the time. And the thing is that this is probably, like I say, part of the tempering of the dynamic of the people you have here.
And somewhat grating on Dracula, right?
Oh yeah, and not only that, it kind of makes you wonder if there's maybe a sexual component to what he does with the impalement. You know, there's been people that have talked about the psychology there, right. And there seems to be a lot of this dominant submission kind of thinking here. You know, almost right out of Assad. You know, they were just really very gory. They knew one of the things that Dracula knew was that Belgrade would be the focus of Fatih's attack, and that the Romania would be on the flank, so he would have to uphold the flank through the battle. And Hunyadi knew that the key there would be the relief of the attack on the siege of Belgrade. They would have to break the siege because that was what he was going for. And there were a lot of the Transylvanian German technicians were paid off, and they had already set up foundries in southern Serbia. So they knew that they were going to come after them and try to besiege the city and just tear it apart with cannons. That was kind of where they knew the focus of the battle would be. And so what they had to do was they had to play a wide front. And like I say, Dracula had to maintain his flank. Then Hunyadi sent one of his sons into Croatia to open the war over there to pin down some of his troops. So that was a pretty good move. And there was a person that rose up at that time, a fellow named St. John of Capistrano. Yeah, he was a real saint. He's a real saint, St. John of Capistrano. He's a Mennonite Franciscan, and he had he preached a crusade, and he got an army of peasants of 8,000. Of course, John Hunyadi had his forces, and he was so tight on forces that he ended up taking the St. John's contingent with him because he really was hard up for people. But it turned out that they won the day, and so the breaking of the siege of Belgrade was successful, and it was considered a miracle.
And because
many people at the time called it.
Because basically peasants with pitchforks and torches, right?
Yeah, they're old weapons. You know, they had the old scimitars, and they had axes and just whatever they could pick up and carry. And Hunyadi's well-trained troops broke the siege and got into the city to relieve it. And they were the ones that held on to the tower at the very end of the battle and came out and took the last of the Turks out. So it was considered a miracle. It shouldn't have happened, but it did. And it really does go to show. I mean, faith has been a very incredible factor in world history, and this is one of the examples in which it was. But this was a miracle, and Capistrano would be actually beatified, and that Hunyadi, unfortunately, would die of the plague just within days of the battle. And John of Capistrano would follow him October. So about 2 to 3 months later.
Right. And while that was happening, what was our friend Dracula doing? He was defending the flank.
Actually, he held up the flank, and then he got his opportunity to go in, and he took over the country. He was relying solely on Hunyadi's backing, and he massacred the army of Vladimir and Vladislav, and I understand that he managed to get his revenge on him finally.
And that was personal, wasn't it, Cliff? He personally, yeah, he personally finished.
That was personal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe he probably tortured him first.
Right.
And he beat him near Turgovishte. And now one of the things that we did point out is that in June 1456 there was something seen in the sky.
Right. Now, when you asked me the first time, I said it had to be a cross, but I was wrong, so I'll let you.
You were wrong. No, it was a long-tailed dragon. Halley's Comet was up there. And it was seen then, and yes, it has been considered a dragon in the past, many different times and places, especially China. They call it a dragon because of its tail. But that is kind of a Dracula's sign that he was coming.
Right, and so was this after the battle that he sees this sign in the sky?
No. The battle was in August, but it was in June that they saw Halley's Comet, and some people consider that the sign of Dracula's coming.
Right.
And I think it's an interesting kind of little thing because it has been called a dragon. More often than not, it was actually more often than not considered inauspicious. Have you seen? Did you see Halley's when it was here in the 80s? Oh yeah. Yeah, same here. Yeah. It was cool. It was really cool. And I remember it during the day. You just kind of watch it going right across the sky. That's right. I remember during the day. Yep, myself looking over a neighbor's house, and there it was above his roof. Yeah. Oh yeah, it was cool. I've seen a couple other of the comets, and I've seen lots of different configurations and stuff, but that has to be one of the most interesting ones I've seen. It's just it's just incredible. It's just truly incredible.
That is end of part 1. Check back soon for second and final part. For now, here is preview.
When on one occasion a condemned gypsy leader protested to the prince that death by impalement or fire was contrary to their law, Dracula ordered him to be boiled alive in a huge cauldron, and then, as an added refinement, compelled the members of his tribe to eat the flesh of the culprit, an act of forced cannibalism. And it says here, the image of Dracula as a friend of the poor had to overcome examples of either stern retributions in the oral traditions of the Romanian people. Perhaps the most tragic incident involving mass punishment of the have-nots, one that is referred to in all the narratives, German, Russian, and Romanian, was Dracula's ridding the country of the beggars, the sick, and the poor. The Romanian version of that particular incident is as follows. Having asked the old, the ill, the lame, the poor, the blind, and the vagabonds to a large dining hall in Târgoviște, Dracula ordered that a feast be prepared for them. On the appointed day, Târgoviște groaned under the weight of a large number of beggars who had come. The prince's servants passed out a batch of clothes to each one. Then they led the beggars to a large mansion where the tables had been set. The beggars marveled at the prince's generosity, and they spoke among themselves. Truly, it is the prince's kind of grace. Then they started eating. And what do you think they saw before them? Okay, one detail that I just kind of want to go back to is the story about Dracula going after the boyars of Turgovishte during Easter. And this is a very well-known story about Dracula and a great example of his atrocities.
Now the boyars are like the nobles, aren't they? They're kind of like nobles.
Yeah, they're the nobles, and they tend to be more wealthy and everything. He went after the ones that had murdered his father and brother, and so at Easter he was known to have kind of encouraged them to dress up really nicely that Easter, and he had something special for them, and he ended up impaling some of the olds who couldn't work and their wives. And then the others he went to use as slave labor building one of his castles. Well, the castle that he was building was called the Castle Poinar, and that is Castle Dracula. And so he took them up the mountain areas around Borgo Pass and had them build that particular castle. But that was actually given to him by Hunyadi as a goodwill thing at the beginning of putting him in charge of the defense of the border areas between Transylvania and Wallachia.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you've enjoyed our show. You can find us on the web at www.lightflintradio.com. If you'd like to contact us, you can email us at mail@lightflintradio.com. That's mail@lightflintradio.com.